And thank you so much for sticking around. These two
I share
questions are,
something real quick, Ellie. You might. I apologize for interrupting. And,
yeah.
and and this is why I feel so strongly about what I said earlier about God's love being present. Um, Oftentimes, we as we go through life, and life has so many challenges and so many things outside of our control. Whether it's our health, things that affect our financial status, our job, our family members, friends, things of that nature. Tragedies that we never expect and never understand. Yet, you know, in our most vulnerable moments, I can think of so many examples where, and a friend of mine who was a very strong Christian taught me this, that if you really want to understand God's love, when you feel like you're facing the greatest trial and tribulation, and you think you're the one who's supposed to carry the weight of it, if you can just learn to give it up to God at the times you feel like it's too much for you, you're broken. I can give you so many personal examples of when I was in that moment and truly just kind of prayed and said, Lord, I need you to take this one for me. It's amazing if you can have the patience, as it's, Scripture states that all things, work for good. It is amazing to see how much love is there present for you at all times when you're just willing to recognize our own insignificance versus His significance, our being the recipients of love and He being the deliverer of love. That when you face those moments, those challenges, that if you're just capable of saying, hey, Lord, I need you to take this one for me, and just I need your love to help me overcome it, that it always proves itself out. Being in this space here, I can't tell you how many times as an elected official that going through a political cycle, feeling, what you could describe as hatred, feeling criticism, feeling attacks because of the dynamic of what politics has become. And unfortunately, politics is a human dynamic. It is people choosing to determine what politics is for them and then justifying bad behavior, saying, well, that's just politics. Well, politics is our decision on how we treat each other. But in going through it, I can tell you, for me as a Catholic, being raised in recognition of the rosary and things like that, His love is those moments where I felt overwhelmed. I will go out back and just pray the rosary and just ask for peace. I don't ask for a gift. I don't ask for an outcome. I just ask for peace in my heart. And then suddenly when I'm done, I feel replenished. And I can tell you that there are so many examples in my personal life as well as in my professional life that when I just reminded myself I'm a child of God, and if you give these things up to Him, wherever you're intended to go, whatever that path is, where the destination is by His choice, if you just trust in it, He'll get you there. But if you want to carve your own path and your own destination, it's going to be a rockier road, and you probably won't go where you think you were supposed to go. You'll always end up where He wants you to be. So just trust in Him.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that, and I wish we would have had this conversation a week ago. I'm currently a clinical pastoral education student. So what that means is in my training to become a pastor, I am sitting in clinical settings. And one of those clinical settings will eventually be MCSO. I'm going to go get fingerprinted next week. Currently is with an organization called the San Francisco Night Ministry. And we had a caller last week who shared with me that he has been suffering mental illness for as long as he can remember. And it's not where he hears voices, but it's where he feels like he doesn't always have control over his body. And he said, does prayer work? Like, that was how he opened up the phone call. Can I ask you a really important question? I was sure. He's like, does prayer work? And I had to think about that. I had to think about who is on the other line. What is it that they want to hear? All of these things in my study of what it means to be a pastor and sit with folks like this. And I was like, well, what does prayer do for you at the moment you're doing it? Let me ask that question back. And he was like, I never thought of it that way. He goes, I've always just prayed to God to just take away this burden. I don't want to feel this way anymore. And it never seems to work because I still have it, and so we had a wonderful conversation, but I really like your approach that of kind of being in the moment of prayer. You're not asking for anything. You're just praying for peace. And I think that is a really special thing that oftentimes perhaps in society we forget about,
I think we try too hard to think that we have more control of the things that we don't. And even in those moments where we're praying and we need to be strengthened, it's not because we're going to suddenly change the course of a particular circumstance. It's just the recognition of how vulnerable we are, and that just having peace in your heart to be able to give it up and say, I don't control this. I can only control, who I am in this moment. And that's a strength that we really should be seeking, and just know that the rest of it, the Lord will take care of. But, you know, it's
Yeah.
easier said than done. We're human, and we have those moments where we're just like, hey, Lord, I don't get it. You know, can you give me, can I see, can I see the, you know, the decoder ring on this one so I know what's going on? But sometimes we're not supposed to know. We're not supposed to understand it. We're just supposed to understand
Right.
ourselves. And that's what you can ask for.
And not giving up that questioning mentality once we get the answer that we didn't think we wanted,
And
you know, to still
everyone's
seek
unique.
that, for sure. So just two more questions for you. And this one is, you know, in the midst of everything that is happening in 2020, in the midst of COVID-19, in the midst of folks who, you know, in Maricopa County, we have a growing population of folks who are aging, who are now homeless because of loss of home or services, you know, for the civil unrest that we have on top of an election year and all of that. How are you doing? And how do you care for those around you during this really difficult time?
Well, I mean, I guess I'm doing fine. I mean, personally, am I doing? You know, and you can kind of see on my shoulder here. You know, things I like over here. This one, I'll kind of try to point at that one. You know, that talks about the
Yes.
armor of God. You know, putting on your armor every day, and obviously you can see the crosses that I have. And this little one over here is actually my wife and I had a picture of something that she put together during one of the campaigns. It was kind of her testimonial of why she believed in me. And it's funny, this one you can't really see. I'm kind of walking through everything. That's actually a picture of my wife outside of St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City. We took a red eye, and she's holding a Starbucks, and she's got this look in her eye like, I'm keeping an eye on you. So I have that picture where she's got a straight shot of me here. And, you know, I think if you remember the foundational things that are your pillars, you know, and I just kind of pointed out some faith as well as family there. You know, if you have those foundations around you, whatever they may be for each individual person, I think even during the most trying times, they give you some grounding to stand on to know that you're going to be okay. You know, all through history, whether it's COVID, you know, we have COVID, but you go back through history, there's been biological threats that other generations have faced that were far more severe, and they were set back by it, but they didn't give up. And you know, so for me personally, that's how I kind of view it. Like, know what is most important to you and do the best you can to care for it. Know what you don't control and let that go and give it up. But then recognize your responsibility. So I don't want to act as though everything, you know, God gives us tests to see that we can overcome them. It's not just always like, hey, it's His will, so wherever it goes. You know, I think there's some silly story about like a guy stranded in a boat out to sea and a ship comes by. He's like, no, God's going to send me something else. And then another thing comes by. He's like, no. And then when he passes, he's like, Lord, what happens? He's like, hey, I sent you things. You just didn't seize the moment. So recognition of seizing the moment. So as a leader, COVID hits and I have a jail system filled with inmates. I have 3,500 employees who are, you know, community members who have families. As a leader, my job is to recognize the Lord doesn't choose those who are equipped. He equips those who are chosen. And His hand, no doubt, is on this blessing that I have of being a sheriff, with the expectation that when difficult moments hit, He put me here with the, you know, expectation that I will rise to the occasion. So, you know, what do? I try to empower men and women in the organization to be part of delivering solutions, to help me better understand the challenges and to bring to my attention things that can help us overcome this moment or mitigate the threats that we have. And by empowering them and actually hearing their voices and giving them a chance to be part of the solution, they suddenly feel what I feel, which is, okay, I've been now, you know, equipped because I'm chosen to be a part of this process. And I think by being humble enough to recognize I don't have the answers. I may have ideas on how we can get the answers, but by incorporating the ideas of many others and bringing them to the table, that collectively we're much more powerful, we're much stronger. By exuding compassion and empathy and understanding and recognizing what they may be going through. They could have a family member who's suffering from COVID, and when they come to work, it's hard for them to stay focused. So how do we support and nurture their wellness? So as an example, we created a wellness division that's just kicking off, where it cares for our employees when it comes to, you know, mental challenges, physical, you know, staying healthy, you know, wellness, financial challenge, all the different things. So I guess the best way I can summarize this long response is recognize you are expected to lead by example. You have to exude strength so that others who feel vulnerable or broken can look to you and get that sense of peace, like, our sheriff feels confident and he's going to help us seek out and find solutions. Therefore, I can feel stronger about it. Bring as many people to the table as possible who can offer something. I don't want complainers. If you're upset, bring a suggestion for a solution, but don't just complain to me and say, you go figure it out for me. Work with me to get there. And I think when people feel like they're united in that way, there's strength in it. But if you feel isolated on an island as if you're not heard and you're not cared for, then suddenly we're fragmented. And I think that's a reflection of our nation right now, or our world. We're so divided with politics or other things that we've lost sight of what it means to respect each other. And if we're not respecting each other, what is love thy Lord and then love thy neighbor as thyself. Those are the most powerful things. So even someone you view as in opposition to your values or in contradiction to what you're trying to accomplish, if we can find a way to overcome that and seek the common ground, we'll get through COVID. But what's after COVID? What comes next? There's always going to be something else. Yeah. And the more united we are as children of God, the more likely we are to find a solution to overcome it. The more divided we are, then we're probably fulfilling Satan's will, which is to get us to fight with each other and be broken and forget who we are as a family.
Indeed. Thank you so much. One final question.
Probably the longest answer, but you're like, why did I interview him? His answers are way too long.
No, I love this. This is great. This is great. This is great. What do you hope for?
I hope that the next generation, our children, and then you go from the teens down, I hope that we find a way to be better role models for them while there's still time for us to do it, and not burden them with being the ones to fix what we broke. All you can ask for is the opportunity to show the next generation what purpose is and what kindness, why it's so powerful, and that respect isn't a gift that we should seek out, but it's actually a gift that we give. Because much like love, if you start every day, like even with our employees, I tell them, when you're arresting someone who's committed a crime, how you treat them is a reflection of who you are and what you believe in, not who they are and what they've done. And I think that starts with even like being a Christian. How we treat others reflects our value system. And if we're vile and we're disrespectful and we're critical and we're hurtful, then are we really good Christians? No, we're not. So I hope that we look in the mirror and just ask ourselves, how can I be a better person? How can it start with me? If I'm not willing to do it, how can I expect someone else to? And if you do it with no expectations in return, I think it becomes contagious. But if you do it because you have selfish intent, it's not going to have, it's not going to have staying power. It's not going to change the attitudes or the actions of others. So just live by being an example of, our greatest example, our Lord. If you can try to be more like him, knowing that we're flawed humans and we can never have that wisdom or that strength or that perfection, but we sure have a great role model to help us be better, then I think we create a legacy, not attached to our name, but attached to our faith.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thank you so very much for all of that. I really appreciate it.
The phone was going cuckoo over here. I should have set it off, so forgive me for the temporary distraction.
You're fine. So I really appreciate you taking the time. Always, I've seen you in various settings over the years, and you've, and I've pushed back on some of the things that you've done or said really early on.
As you should, because that's what makes me better. I mean, listen, I don't want people to always be agreeable. I want people to challenge me to be better and to be critical, constructively critical of failures or things that, I'm not handling correctly. I can't be a good servant to others if I'm not a servant leader, meaning, Ellie, you're a phenomenal friend. You're doing great things in the community and you are leading by example. So the blessing for me is to have someone like you in my life to help me understand things that are foreign or new to me and to be with me on that path to try to get it better for others. So I thank you.
Well, that is kind. I was making you carry the burden of somebody who came prior to you. So, and now that I've gotten a chance to really sit and talk with you and see the way that you interact with community members, with your own employees, and just with regular folks, it's been awe-inspiring. I get really excited to be able to tell folks that, I think that as complicated as law enforcement is, that there is somebody who is trying to make a difference in the way that we had all imagined it being. And so I want to let you know that our Beatitudes community and beyond are supporting you in your mental health, in your physical health, in your spiritual health. And we wish you well during this difficult season, and just really thank you for everything that you've done and continue to do. And yeah, and thank you. Thank you for taking the time.
Back at you.
Yeah.
I'm blessed to call you my friend, and I appreciate all the wonderful work you're doing.
Likewise. Well, thank you very much. Until we see each other again, I'm sure it'll be soon.